Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kauai County Council Roundup here at Hawaii Studio. This is Mel Rapozo, your council chair, with Vice Chair Kipukai, Kualii.
Aloha.
And we're going to round up the council meeting from yesterday, May 15th. And we started off with a couple of certificate presentations. The first one was for Mr. Chucky Boy Chalk. We all know and love Chucky Boy. He is the director at the Kauai Museum, as well as many other things, songwriter and artist, and just an amazing cultural practitioner. But he was recognized by Keoki's Paradise, the restaurant out there in Poipu. They have a Ho'oulu Award, which is basically an award they give out to one person a year that serves the community and moves forward the culture and the practices of our Native Hawaiian culture. So he came up to
Darren Tan was there, the general manager from Keoki's Paradise.
Yeah, Darren Tan, the general manager, was present as well. He was presented this award at the restaurant a couple of weeks ago. We surprised him yesterday. And I know you know Chucky Boy a long time. But he's just a great guy. I love his storytelling. I love his knowledge. He was surprised. I don't think he was too happy. He doesn't like being in the limelight. But you and Chucky Boy go back a long way as well, right?
I think he pretty much has relationships with most of us on the council because he's been so active in community. And it was evident when each of the council members shared their stories and their appreciation and their admiration for him. For me personally, of course, all the great work he does at the museum. We have, such an amazing museum when it comes to the historic preservation and all of that. But he also participates in the Royal Order of Kamehameha, and we see him every year at the Prince Kuhio Festival, and they're all in their regal wear and costumes and stuff. And I expressed how I'm always so proud to see that representation of our Native Hawaiian culture.
And he's so humble.
Very humble, which is typically Hawaiian.
The Kauai Museum was always a good museum. Chucky Boy made it a great museum. If you haven't been down there, go check it out. Free admission on Saturdays for the Kama'aina.
And no coincidence that his wife, Pam Chuck, who was Pam Smith before from the Smith's Boats, and my classmate at Kamehameha also, that she's working downstairs in our historical society and the preservation there and everything. I recently got to go down there and check on some stuff with her for the Kipukai Ranch and all, where my dad was a Paniolu.
Yeah, amazing person. Congratulations, Chucky Boy.
Congratulations.
And then we had our state spelling bee champion, Sebastian Bear. He was there with his mom and dad, and he won the state championship spelling bee. I honestly don't remember the word that he had to spell.
Oblivious, something
like that. I know. I can't.
Ross was the one asking him at the time.
Yeah, Ross was trying to. Ross even couldn't pronounce it.
None of us knew the word.
But he earned his way. He's going to be going out at the end of May to Washington, D.C. to participate in the national championship. Yeah. So Sebastian, very quiet, shy, humble guy. We wish Sebastian and his family the best as they travel to D.C. to go ahead.
The mom and dad were there with him, and you could tell how proud they were.
Yeah.
And the mom was especially appreciative of these opportunities that Sebastian is taking part of, because it kind of helps bring him out of his shell, and
Yep. And then we proceeded with the meeting, and I got to tell you, this first item that we had up was quite enlightening, I guess. It was.
Sure, you got very passionate.
Oh, I did, because I love kids, and I love, I just.
It kind of made us all cry at times.
I don't want to cry today. So I'm going to probably let you take over, but. And I hope you have the girls' names, because I don't have them. But Yvette Amshoff, which is she's a school teacher out in. She's actually a public health lecturer out at Waimea High School. 3 of her students did a school project on the
Native Hawaiian diet is how they titled it.
Yeah, they titled it Native Hawaiian Diet.
It was about cafeteria lunches.
Well,
basically.
It was because how Native Hawaiian diet relates to the school cafeteria menus. And let me tell you that they did a PowerPoint, and it was again quite alarming what we.
It was kind of how like the Native Hawaiian diet was so healthy and good for you, and how far we've come away from that, and how even what we call the Native Hawaiian diet today is basically the infusion of all the different cultures and probably some of the most unhealthy things from each culture, the fried stuff and the starchy, extra starchy stuff and all.
They had in their presentation, they had some photos, and we have the presentation right here. But some of that stuff that they were showing was it just didn't look appetizing at all. They were talking about how the students are not happy, and that in fact many of the students go without eating because they don't want to eat this food. And with the Department of Education managing that program, they believe that we should be able to create a much more healthy option for our kids. And it's not happening right now. Some of the things that they talked about was the frequent times that their milk is spoiled. Kipukai, one that
How they don't even choose to grab the milk anymore because they don't want to find out if it's spoiled or good.
I mean, sour milk is one of the nastiest things you can smell. But Kipukai, you took off on the lack of
Yeah,
water.
I mean, they were saying that they don't even have water as an option there in the cafeteria. If they wanted water, they would have to go like down the hall to several classrooms over to find the nearest water fountain. And I thought, boy, as at a minimum, having water as an option should be a pretty easy thing to do. We have it all over the airports, right?
Well, because the airports serve the tourists.
Yeah,
right? We got to make sure the tourists get their little automatic fill buttons.
And how simple and fairly inexpensive that would be. So, I mean, that we're not even doing that. And I was encouraging the students to do that as you fight for it, like break it down and go after what you think is low-hanging fruit stuff and just, check it off and get it done and go after our legislators and everything.
Yeah, and the frustrating thing about all of this is it's not a new issue. I mean, I think we and the council have been discussing this for a while now, and I think the legislature every session tackles this school food issue,
like
but
farm
nothing
to table. And
I mean,
there's a lot of talk about it and maybe small pilot projects, but there hasn't been anything big that impacts the entire DOE.
Yeah, and it ends up in again a lot of food. I can only imagine how much food is being wasted. How much of this food is getting prepared, and they're not even cooked anymore. They're prepared. They got the frozen stuff that they throw in a micro. But how much of that is being tossed at the end of the day because students just are not taking the lunch or not eating the food? I think it's pretty important issue. I think it should be a priority for the state legislature. And I committed to them that I would take this as far as I can, as far as sending this presentation and a copy of the video of their presentation to our state and congressional delegations, as well as the governor, lieutenant governor, because I think it's that important. Again, some of those photos, that hamburger or whatever, I think she said it was a hamburger. It looks like Soylent Green. It's not something that I would want my kid to be eating, but
most of it was just not very appetizing and definitely not healthy. I mean, they did share too about the what is it called, Aina Pono Hawaii State Farm to School Initiative. I mean, so there's attempts, but we got to go much further in all this time, And then even here on Kauai, they talked about Malama Kauai, and they had Halepuna and Ivikua. But these are very small, like isolated examples of doing better in the school. NutriSlice was another one where they're saying they're tracking.
It's going to take the legislature to elevate this issue higher on the priority list.
Yeah.
Set some commitments, set some deadlines, and start working on a plan that will get our local beef, our local vegetables and fruits, our local maybe shrimp. We got, I think Mr. DeCosta brought up the fact that we have a large shrimp farm. Not all of that shrimp gets sold that could be, possibly used at the schools. So, but again, until the state sets it as a priority, again, which I believe our council will move to at least ask to move it up so we can get our kids the healthy foods that they deserve.
I missed their last names, but the three young ladies who did a tag team presentation and did a very good job of picking up where the other one left off was Jessica, Kaylee, and Aaliyah. And they're all seniors, but they also take classes at KCC. So they're in the health class with Yvette. So it was the four of them that came together and did an incredible presentation. I think several of the council members too were saying you should go take this very presentation to the state legislators and the governor.
And we will do that for her. Also, it's a great opportunity to let you know that you can watch that whole presentation on Ho'ike Channel 53 or on our county website, www.kauai.gov. Hit the webcast meetings, search for the May 15th meeting, and it's again, it was the first item on the agenda, so you can get and watch the entire presentation, the three amazing women, those young ladies, and you can see for yourself. It was quite alarming and I think embarrassing for the state.
Well, the other thing was, I think it was Councilmember Kagawa had shared that while over 50% of the students get free or reduced lunch, nearly 50% are paying for their lunch, and they're being charged $4.50 on lunch. And when you look at these pictures of what they actually get for that $4.50, it's no wonder that a lot of them are just not doing it, choosing to spend their money somewhere else.
Good point. Good point. Right after that, we had our executive on aging come in and basically approve the grant of $156,000 for our family caregiver support program.
The congregate meals. So, a very valuable program that continues year after year, and they always come back to their renewing of their funding.
Our executive on aging, Miss Kealoha, she does a great job with finding these grants. So again, this is $156,685 that we don't have to use taxpayer money for. Following that, we had a bill. We did have a bill on, we have a reserve fund, which is the emergency fund. And with the recent flooding events that we had, the county obviously spent quite a bit of money in overtime and equipment rentals and so forth. So this bill is simply just to transfer the money from the reserve fund over to our operating budget so they can pay for do
the work that they need to do. And then in the meantime, they're in negotiations with FEMA on what potentially could be reimbursable and all of that to then fund, reimburse the county back with some FEMA funds. But I think they said something up to the tune of like $7 million already that they've that are planned expenditures.
Yeah, and it's going to be more.
Yeah.
As we progress in the repairs.
More things keep coming up. Is what Reiko said.
Like sinkholes, big sinkholes. After that, obviously, we did approved an agreement with this company called Bluefin Pay Connex, and all it is agreeing the terms and conditions so we now can accept credit card payments from KPD, the Department of Motor Vehicles, Driver's License, and other departments. Something that the council has always been pushing for is like allow people to pay online so they don't have to come all the way in, or even if they're at the counter, no one carries checkbooks anymore. So
this is a way to make those type of payments available in different places across the county. Obviously, we started with DMV because it's been there for a little while.
Yeah, golf course. For the longest time, you had to have cash to go play at the golf course. Now, we can use credit cards, debit cards, awesome stuff. Following that, we had our water department manager, Mr. Joe Tate, and Mike Hinazumi, his assistant, and they came up to share a little bit about the updates on the Kauai water use and development plan, which they are required to put out. And we're really working on an old plan that we're trying to bring it up to standard.
It's kind of long time overdue. We've had a couple of times before council already to hear from them since 2009. So they're actively working with a consultant, having all these meetings in community. I know they even came out to Anahola to the homestead. And then Joe Tate gave a very broad overview that basically Kauai has an abundance of water, but unfortunately we don't have adequate delivery system or storage system. I mean, it's very old in some places. I think he even said some of the water lines was like 1800. Did he say
100
that?
years old?
Yeah, it was just
100 years old.
Over 100 years old or something. But that, that has to be addressed. And so they're working on a water system investment plan, so the improvements that they have to make. And our biggest concern was, please do what we need to do to make sure water is there when we're having affordable housing developments, because there's a potential for a lot more affordable housing to be developed, especially like in Lihue now, that some of the Lihue lands are, becoming active. And then we don't want water and wastewater to be the things that hold us back, because it's always been about infrastructure. So I think Joe Tate, our water leader, manager, and chief engineer, did a really good job at answering a lot of questions and giving us information. But he'll be back because they're going to finalize this water system investment plan. I asked him also about the state DHHL water reservations and whether DHHL would be able to come back to them and update the water reservations if when they potentially can build new homes here in Lihue. And he did say that it mostly goes through CWRM, the State Commission on Water Resource Management. And yeah, and I also asked them because I think there's been rumors out there about how the water department has an overabundance of money in their reserves that they're just hoarding, if you will. So I asked him about their reserve and their reserve policy, and he basically said it's same as the county, so 30%, and they're currently at that 30% level. So the reserves is at like 9 million. So I mean.
Yeah, I think it's important for the public to understand that the water department is a semi-autonomous department, meaning that they are pretty much separate from the county. So they are not part of our county council budget or the mayor's budget. They have their own budget. They have their own board of water supply, which manages the department much more aggressively than the county council manages. We're a legislative branch, so we don't have any managing or directing power. Unlike the Board of Water Supply, they have a little more power. But the briefing was really for informational purposes only, and there is an opportunity at some point for the County of Kauai and the Board of Water to collaborate as it relates to maybe securing funding from the federal government or in the way of loans, so we can, 100-year pipes, my Lord. And you brought it up earlier, overabundance of water on our island. I always wondered, how can we not have water? Well, it's not the water, it's the transmission lines and the water tanks and all of that costs a lot of money. So Joe Tate is a great guy, came from California, came from a very big city with many resources. So it's challenging, but I think he's on his way to getting us back on track. That department has really seen a lot of turnover over the last decade. Many managers come and go. I think Joe's here to stay. He's committed, and he's really a good guy.
And it feels like they're moving in the right direction. I know we did kind of like jokingly, kind of chuckle when you talked about the semi-autonomous, because really they're pretty autonomous.
Yeah.
We don't really have any real say, but we can play a role in helping get the information out to the public and helping the public come and testify to us if they don't have a chance to go testify to the Board of Water, and to basically play a role in keeping them accountable and making sure they're working with us, especially when it comes to having the infrastructure for affordable housing.
Yeah, water is key for all developments, but for us right now, like I said, in the focus that this council has taken on, it's really that affordable housing, workforce housing that if we don't have water, we don't have housing. So. Following that was a draft bill introduced. It was sent over by the administration. It was introduced by request, and it is to allow refreshment concessions at the golf course and at our stadiums to sell alcohol, intoxicating liquor. This is something that the mayor and I had a discussion about, and I think the Kauai Golf Association was supportive of. So this was just the introduction. It's going to go through the public hearing, which is going to happen on June 12th. And then it'll come back to the committee where the council will work and figure out what will happen with this bill. But again, it is to allow the concession stands at the stadiums as well as the golf course to sell alcohol. Again, there will be rules in place. You will not be able to sell alcohol at the stadiums during events for kids. And it's more geared towards concerts or fundraisers. But that is all yet to be determined based on the meetings that we have at the committee coming forward.
So more like special events.
Correct. Yeah.
Then the golf course though is mainly adults.
Right. And again, this doesn't allow you to bring alcohol into the stadiums and to the golf course. This is simply allowing concessionaires or event holders through a special use permit process. They would have to go to the county and apply through parks to get a special use permit with all the details of the event, all the controls of the event, and how they're going to make sure that it's safe. And if they get the permit, then they'll get to sell alcohol at those events.
We did, as a part of this item here, a little bit from the Parks Director too on how the restaurant there at the golf course was being renovated, and they hope by the end of this year they have it up and going again. So, which they've always sold alcohol there in the restaurant and bar.
Yeah, the restaurant actually does have a liquor license or will have a liquor license. They've always had that liquor license, so but it's within the in the restaurant and bar itself. This bill will allow them to sell beer to the golfers as they go around the course. So it'd be interesting how that discussion goes. And a couple more items. It was final reading bills, second reading bills, which basically, once the mayor signs, will become law. The first one was on our real property tax. It had to do with, we've discussed this several times on this roundup as it was going through the process, was basically if a homeowner has an owner occupant or a homeowner exemption and they pass away, that the surviving spouse or family member will be able to retain that homeowner exemption should they decide to remain in the house. We just basically codified that in the law to make sure that that it's not vague, that it's clear now that if a spouse passes away, the surviving spouse will be able to retain that homeowner exemption. And then the final one was the beautification fees. We talked about that as well. Rental cars, for as long as we can remember, has been paying $1 a year to register their vehicles, while the local residents have been paying $5. This simply just changes that and bumps the rental car rates up to $5 a year. It costs more money to process that registration than it does to actually from the money that we collect. This funds goes into the beautification account, which takes care of the abandoned vehicles and cleaning up roads and stuff like that.
And there was a whole thing about how we're just making it equal, and if you wanted the rental cars to be higher than the locals' cars, they have to move together. So.
Yeah. The state sets the rules. The state statute gives the counties the authority to charge this beautification fee. I'm not sure how this started, where the rental cars got $1 a year and the residents got $5. Again, through meetings with finance, Councilmember DeCosta and the finance department came across this statute and said, wow, the rental car is paying only $1 and locals are paying $5. So when I first found out about it, I said, well, let's bump the rental cars up to 10 or maybe even 20. And the county attorney's review came back and said, no, the statute is very clear that you need to have the rate the same for everybody. So rather than bump the local resident fee, we just brought the rental car fee up to the same.
You want to do a little teaser about next Wednesday?
Sure.
Yeah. So basically, on Tuesday, we did have our decision making, which is a big part of budget. And we voted, I think, on like 7 or 8 different proposals, which we'll tell you about next week. And in next week's meeting, there'll be more votes in our committee of the whole, kind of like getting to the finalizing point of the budget. But the biggest item there, I'll just tell you, was that there was a proposal, and it was a close vote, 5-2, to increase the real property taxes by a very nominal amount on the vacation rentals and the resort and hotels. But all of those the funding as a result of that increase is being dedicated to affordable housing. And I think there was very emotional sharing from a lot of the council members about how we've talked about this for so long, and it's impacting our families so much. And so the feeling there was we have to do something. We've talked about it a lot, and we've done little things a lot, but that we needed to do something bold. And I think Council Chair Rapozo and Council Member DeCosta were especially passionate talking about their own kids and stuff.
Yeah, let me just say this. Raising taxes is something that no one ever wants to do. No council member, no legislator at the state level wants to raise taxes. And politically, you never do it in an election year. And this is an election year. That's why I call this move bold and in some cases dangerous. But this is the bottom line. We have never seen the crisis, the housing crisis, as we see it today. Yeah, you talked about my kids both live on the mainland. Councilmember DeCosta's kid, one of his sons live on the mainland. One of them is going to school in the mainland. Councilmember Cowden's son just relocated to Kentucky. So she's feeling it too, and it's not easy.
And I would say that it would apply to me and my family too. The only hidden blessing and the only reason why we're all still here, because most of my family is working class poor, who wouldn't be able to afford a house on the regular open market here on Kauai. But we are all beneficiaries of the Hawaiian homeland. So not having to pay for the land, which is 3/4 of the price of $1 million or $1.5 million house, means that we can, build a house and get into a house for something like $300,000 or $400,000. A lot of people might struggle with that too, but that's more workable than what
Absolutely.
there now.
And
Kids would be able to figure that out.
for the price of the construction of a home here, without the land cost, is what the mainland is offering our kids to buy house and lot. So this move, while the timing may not be great politically, I got to tell you that we cannot wait. And rather than raise taxes on all the other classes, the reason we decided to raise on hotel, resort, and TVR is that we have been the lowest tax rates in the state as it relates to hotel, resort. Yeah. We're bringing us up now. We are basically the same as Maui. And only the Big Island is lower than us now. And they're lower by like 20 cents or 30 cents per thousand. So the timing is necessary because, as you said, Mr. Kualii, the land cost is what basically takes the opportunities away from our local families. If they only could purchase the home, the construction, a lot more people would be in homes today. This bill, or this move, with the condition that all of these funds generated, which comes out slightly under $8 million, will go into the Housing Development Fund, which will be able to be used to purchase land, to bank some land that our housing agency now can negotiate with developers to put up not just affordable, but workforce housing for our middle class, who seem to have been forgotten for a while. So we've been getting the emails. Some people are not happy, but you know what? Like I said in my post on Instagram, if you want to make people happy, don't be a leader. Go sell ice cream, because some decisions got to be made. And I don't think we can wait another year.
Yeah.
So,
and we are having successes with our housing efforts, but we need more funding for sure to get more done faster. And so the hope and the plan is to see some real difference in the next few years, and there should be with more investment in our housing development fund.
Absolutely. And next week, when we go into detail, we'll show you the actual financial impact it's having on these resorts and hotels. So.
And the other thing too, the housing is needed by everyone. So this also supports the workers in the visitor industry as well. People that are working at the hotels and restaurants and at the vacation hotels and resorts.
Awesome stuff. All right.
Okay.
Well, folks, again, thank you, Hoike, Roger, our cameraman, and here at the studio. I love this studio. It's so cool. I want to thank Hoike. Channel 53, you can watch our council meetings. You can watch it whenever you want, whenever they air it, or you can go to kauai.gov, hit the webcast meeting, click on the meeting that you want to watch, or you can tune in live on Wednesdays, 8:30 in the morning, and you can watch the meeting live as it is happening. So with that, we appreciate you guys. We thank you guys. Thanks again, Mr. Kualii. Until next time, ahui ho.
Aloha.